How's it going, everyone? Today marks the official 2-week period after the 89th Academy Award, so I thought my review of Moonlight was way past due. Sorry about that, but I was trying to see every Best Picture sequentially, and I finally got around to seeing Moonlight right the days before the ceremony, but I was on vacation during the Oscars. I wasn't about to do a review. But anyway, so Moonlight follows the story of Chiron. It's directed by Barry Jenkins, and it basically chronicles his journey through, he's living in a Miami project, and it chronicles his journey to escape a community that's very hostile towards him. It follows 3 different decades of his life, so if you've ever seen the movie Boyhood, it's a very similar storytelling structure, but it's very rare in movies nowadays, but this is exactly how you do it. And it follows just how he grows up and how he doesn't really have a lot of figures that give him support and who love him. But all of a sudden, a man named Juan, who's played by Mahershala Ali, gives him that home, gives him that sense of belonging. So the first thing right off the bat that I loved about Moonlight was its cinematography. It has very well done camera work. Every scene focuses on the action and the drama so well that there wasn't a single scene, although this is a pretty long movie, there wasn't a single scene where I'm like, yep, you should cut that out. That's not necessary. Every shot of this movie is very intentional, and I loved how the camera focused on that. And a lot of long, beautiful shots of landscaping. If there's travel, it's similar. It kind of reminded me to Manchester by the Sea. So great cinematography. Second thing I loved about this movie is its cast. It is so well acted. First of all, the 3 actors that depicted Chiron across every decade were so powerful and give such rooted, grounded performances. They're so believable. I loved how this movie just threw him in these different sequences of his life, and it doesn't feel like it's not a disjointed story. Every first, second, and third act, it feels like a cohesive, coherent story, and the actors that portrayed Chiron is a huge part of why it feels that way. I also love Naomi Harris as Chiron's mother. She's kind of like a drug abusive figure, but her character she has this one gripping, heartfelt scene towards the end of the movie that makes her character come full circle. I love how the movie didn't just say, okay, she was another person who showed hate to Chiron in his life, and that's just her character. No, they brought her all the way around, and I love that scene she had with adult Chiron in the 3rd act. And of course, a huge special shout out to Mahershala Ali for taking home Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. I loved his performance in this movie as Juan, kind of Chiron's father figure. He just comes in and he gives the first act of this movie the heart that it needs. So great performance in this movie. I loved him in Luke Cage. I loved him in Hidden Figures. 2016 was the year of Mahershala Ali. So the second thing, as far as casting, that was great. The last thing I loved about this movie, it has such strong thematic depth. It's really about a movie about how someone can fold into themselves. As Mahershala Ali stated, it's a movie about how persecution can change a person. So nowadays, this movie is being marketed as the first LGBTQ film to win Best Picture. I was having a conversation about Moonlight with someone who was pitching it like that, and I was like, well, is it really though? Is it? So it's no surprise right now, if you're watching this review, you probably know that the main character happens to be gay, and that is the aspect of his identity that he comes under so much persecution for. I don't think the primary takeaway of this movie is you should accept gay people. It's about how you should accept anyone, no matter their identity, and just treat them with love regardless, not necessarily pushing a homosexual agenda. So I don't see this as like a flagship LGBTQ film for that reason specifically, and because of Mahershala Ali's comments. I think saying Moonlight is a film primarily about gay people is like saying La La Land was just about music, or Hacksaw Ridge was just about war. That's just scratching the surface. I think the movie is trying to portray a much more subtle and much more profound message than Yeah, gay people, that's okay. So yeah, there's the strong thematic depth in the movie. It was very, very captivating. Now, I don't really have any problems. I enjoyed Moonlight from start to finish. I don't really have any problems with it as far as a movie goes. So, of course, given that criteria, I had to give Moonlight its fair rating of a perfect 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Now, as far as the Oscars, though, in typical 2016 fashion, this movie, the fans of this movie were between this movie and the frontrunner for Best Picture, La La Land. The fans of this movie were pretty divided. I haven't really found anyone who loved Moonlight and La La Land and thought they were best. They both could have won Best Picture. No, the people I talked to who love Moonlight, they're like, yeah, Moonlight all the way. And the people like me who loved La La Land, they're like, yes, it definitely should have been La La Land. Here's the thing, though. The question remains the same. Did Moonlight deserve Best Picture this year? And the answer for me remains the same. Not really. Hear me out for a second. First of all, this movie, I rate the best movie of 2016 for me based on how it left me, how it emotionally resonate with me. Did it get me thinking for the next couple days? The ending to La La Land was so profound, and same thing. They're both excellent movies, and I hate to compare them because they're so different and they're so beautiful and unique in their own ways. But if I had to choose one, I had to choose La La Land because it just stuck with me a lot longer than Moonlight did. Seen Moonlight it's been almost a month now since I've seen Moonlight, and I can say it didn't stick with me the same way La La Land did. I saw Moonlight, and my first things coming out of the theater saying was, wow, that was an emotional, heartfelt, well-directed story, and I appreciated that. But it didn't, get me thinking the next couple days. I'm not saying the movie has a lack of depth by any means because of that, but I'm just saying, personally, as a moviegoer, La La Land resonated with me more as a moviegoer. The second thing where I'm like, I don't think that should have won Best Picture, is that I do not find it a coincidence at all to see that a movie with an all-black cast and all mostly black production staff, etc., takes home Best Picture the year after most black celebrities boycott the Oscars. Come on, the Academy has always thought this out politically. The Academy Awards have always been a means of a political platform, if you will. So that so-called coincidence really raised my eyebrow. Another thing about Moonlight taking home Best Picture over La La Land, I was just like, nope, don't see it, was the fact that apart from Best Picture, Moonlight only won 2 Oscars. One for Mahershala Ali, which was well-deserved, and another for Best Adapted Screenplay, also well-deserved. But the fact that La La Land took home 6 Oscars total, and Moonlight only took home 2 besides Best Picture, that was the thing where I was like, okay, yeah, this is really obvious. You're not doing a good job of covering your tracks, Academy. This is really obvious. This is a political move, giving Moonlight Best Picture overall. So overall, my concluding thoughts is that Moonlight is a well-directed, heartfelt, insightful picture that does deserve a 5-star rating, but I don't think it deserved Best Picture this year. I do think it's a Best Picture quality film, and to be absolutely clear, I am not saying that it only won because of politics. I spent the first 6 minutes of this movie gushing about how good it is. Clearly, I'm not saying that it only won because it's all black year after, but I do think those political factors I mentioned is the reason why it was able to slightly edge out over the Best Picture frontrunner. It was still a good movie regardless. But I can tell the Academy was probably really conflicted on this one. Everyone wanted to choose La La Land, but Moonlight got its time. Moonlight got its time. But Warren Beatty, that mishap of Warren Beatty reading the wrong envelope and then looking up, looking down, seeing it was wrong, and then pulling a classic Adam and shifting the blame to his lady and making her read That was just a horrible moment. I understand why the fans of Moonlight were so upset. It did kind of steal the movie's thunder. But hey, at least both Best Pictures got to make somewhat good speeches, at least. But overall, that's my thoughts on Moonlight and the Oscar debacle. I'm Pac. Thanks so much for watching my perspective, and I'll see you on the next video.